Welcome to the production HQ here in London. The doubleheader in Jeddah finished just a matter of moments ago, and I really do mean that because on the screens over there, the post-race concert is still going on. It was António Félix Costa who got that win. It was an exceptionally well-managed drive, and Albie and I are going to be going deep into the data, into the strategy, and understand how Da Costa got that win. But first, let us know what you thought of the race. Get it in the comments. Time to talk to António, our race winner. António Félix Costa, what a sensational drive. Talk us through it.
What I did in the first half of the race was probably key. I was able to stay near the front, consume or save more energy than everybody else, and that gave me that little edge on everyone. And I could use that for two things: to place me and spend the energy to replace me where I wanted to be, which was always near the top 4, top 5. And then when I activated attack, I knew I could spin a little bit more, and that really gave me the little gap to manage my second attack mode and cover everybody off. You know, I had enough of a gap that I could activate after everybody did their second one, and then I was not in danger of a late safety car or whatever else it could be. So yeah, this one feels good, man. We've been so fast since I've joined this team, way faster than I thought I could be joining a new team. But in this garage, everything is just so light and so healthy, and even when things go wrong, nobody's stressing and everybody's putting their head down. And I've just been feeling good with these guys, and happy to repay them with today's result.
Absolutely. I mean, you did everything that was asked of you today, you know, getting the attack mode timing perfect, and then, like you said, finding those gaps where it's important. How much did you go into this race knowing that strategy would work, or did a lot happen as the race unfolded?
I was expecting a lot of the guys, like in the mid-pack and at the back, that this traditional extra energy saving, that they would come at the end. But you know, when Mortara took the lead there, just before the first attack mode was activated, he really picked up the pace earlier than what I thought people would do, and I think that put the guys in the back, the ones I was expecting to come through, a little bit more in trouble. And so that was good. Like, that worked really, really well for me. But yeah, I was expecting the guys at the back to show up at some point, and some of them did. You know, Degrassi was up there, Mitch was up there, but I knew that at that moment, with the pace that we were putting in the race already, was going to be hard for them. And yeah, so after 12, 15 laps, I told myself, okay, I have a shot at this. And yeah, I didn't let it slip away this time.
There was one point in the race where Jake Dennis actually got on his radio, and you guys had started to pull away, and he made a comment that suggested that he thought you'd all gone too early. Was there any risk behind the wheel that you thought, oh, have we got this right?
No, I actually thought I went too late. So when Mortara pulled the trigger and I was 4th, I thought, oh man, I got done here. I wanted to be like second at that moment, and I was 4th, Buemi and Jev in front of me. And I thought, okay, this is maybe I left it a bit late. But so I knew like the only way for me to make a difference then was to get an undercut on them on the attack mode and really use the extra energy that I had to get me back to where I wanted to be, and we were able to do that. But never late. I never thought that we were going late, but early. Oh, sorry, the opposite. I never thought that we were going early, but actually too late.
Okay, well, there's one thing I've got to ask you. I know you're not going to tell me because you're not going to give me the Da Costa secrets, but you're so good at managing races like this but without losing too much pace. That you keep your performance up while saving really well. How much of that comes from your particular style of driving, or kind of the comfortability of the car and the setup?
I think there's a little bit of everything. There's I think at some point in this Gen 3 era, I maybe had a little bit of an edge on these other guys. I understood it earlier than some of them, but there's a lot of good people doing these races now, and yeah, it's harder to win them now, let's put it like that. So I was happy to get another one today, but you know, we see guys like Mitch, like Cassidy, like Roland, like Dennis. You know, there's some, I'm for sure forgetting some names, but there's a lot of these guys that in races like this, that they're always up there. And that's why I meant when we spoke about earlier that I knew some of these guys were going to be showing up. But I knew Ollie was up there with me, and I know he's good in this, so I kind of based a little bit on what he was doing and just try to do a little bit better, because I could obviously see what he was doing. So I just try to have a little edge on these guys, and kind of took them as a reference, and it worked out.
I don't think we often give you drivers enough credit for how much goes on in the car during a race like that. Give us a sense of the feeling behind the wheel towards like the last 5 laps when you're managing and you've got everything going on. What is that feeling like?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard my radios, but my steering wheel was like a flashing Christmas tree at the end in the last 6-7 laps with with a lot of alarms popping up. And you know, in this team, the alarms are just a number. I don't know what they actually are. So I'm like, alarm 100, alarm 303, critical alarm. And I'm like, guys, what do I need to do? Do I need to manage anything? And they were just like, acknowledge, acknowledge, acknowledge. And so it was a little bit scary in the car. And I was trying to manage that a little bit at the end and saving a little bit more energy than what I actually needed to do. But yeah, there's a lot of management going on, and tire temps and many other things that I cannot tell you now. I'll tell you one day, but yeah, it's busy. It's busy out there.
António, amazing drive. Congrats on the win. See you soon.
Thanks, man. Good to hear from you. Cheers.
Albie, let's get into this one, because that was an exceptional drive from António Félix da Costa. It was well managed. It was patient. He put himself in all the positions he needed to be. Was there a moment where it all started to come together for da Costa, or was there potentially a moment where it could have been different?
Definitely, yeah. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. So if we look, again, always from a very macro point of view at the whole race, this race took the shape of a more, let's say, standard Gen 3 Evo style of shape, where you've got a little bit of energy conservation at the beginning, sort of an inflection point in the middle, and then the race ramps back up towards the second half of the race.
Okay.
So if we take all of the drivers away and just look at our top 5, you'll see for António here, where it sort of came together for him is actually on his first attack activation. So his first attack activation, he took a 4-minute attack and just sort of propelled himself to the lead of the race. And realistically, he controlled everything from there on out, and he just watched everything behind him, really, really controlling race. You know, there's a big gap behind him, just managed everything properly. Then when he needed to take a second attack, everything under control, took it, and then realistically, it was a quote-unquote easy win for him.
Okay, can we zoom into this kind of section here around the first attack mode? Because you put it so simply there, and it makes so much sense, but just to give like that, almost that driver, that team perspective, behind the wheel of that car, da Costa is put in a position where he takes that attack mode and he has to come out of it in the lead.
Absolutely.
Otherwise the game plan's off.
Absolutely. So they committed to a 4-minute attack here. At that moment, he's P4. He's got Roland, Buemi, and Mortara in front of him. So he takes his attack mode and then pushes through, gets those 3 overtakes done, and gets into the lead.
That works so well. And actually, you know, looking at the triangles, the attack mode activations, looking at the other 2, they almost, like, I don't want to say were caught sleeping, but they didn't react quick enough potentially.
Yeah. So, I mean, they took it 2 laps. So if I look at Buemi and Mortara, they sort of took it 2 laps later, but crucially for me, and this was potentially a missed opportunity here, they took a 2-minute attack, saving a 6-minute one for later in the race. And because of that 2-minute activation didn't really allow them to get back into touch with da Costa. If they had a 4-minute activation, they would have been, you know, challenging António probably for the lead and at least been in that lead group with António rather than António being just there on his own. So for me, that was a critical step. Like, they just committed to that 2-minute, knowing that they wanted to have more attack mode remaining towards the end of the race, which, you know, we've seen that tactic work in previous races, and I think we explained after the Mexico race why you would want to save your attack mode for the end. But in this case, especially as the pace of the race got so much quicker, it ended up being very difficult to use that 6-minute attack to do anything with it. And we can see here, if I zoom back out a bit, and I just zoom into the second half of the race, you can see when they take their second attack. So basically, most people had the similar sort of time for their second attack, lap 23, lap 24, in this range. But you can see, again, all 3 of them taking them on exactly the same lap. So again, you don't have a delta to each other. You're all on attack, so you're not really progressing amongst yourself. You're just squabbling amongst yourselves. And with that, they just never really caught up to Antonio, and Antonio takes it the next lap after. Again, just managed everything from there on out. And even though they had 2 minutes extra, there was realistically nothing they could do. And Antonio's 4 minute was enough to keep him in the lead.
I mean, the truth is in the trace, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's right there. You can see the gap that Antonio makes for himself that just completely takes out any potential issue of the others catching up by building that gap and then using the attack mode.
Exactly.
Very comfortable. But one thing is we have to talk about, outside of the strategy, is Antonio just seems to have a knack at managing races like this.
Yeah.
If he's in a good position,
Yeah.
he can just keep the pace up but conserve when he needs to. What is it about achieving that balance? Well, how does he do it so effortlessly?
So again, it looks effortlessly from where you're sitting, right? But ultimately, the hard work of the team and the driver, just to give him a car that he, at the end of the day, you have to have performance in the car. It's not just the driver being able to drive himself out of any situation. You have to have the good balance in the car. You have to have efficiency in your energy management. And then the driver clearly then does the extra bit on top of that. But for me, this period where after he comes out of attack mode and he's back in standard power, he still had very good pace. And all that means is in that period, the car balance is working well. He's managed his tires well. And even though he's just driving on standard power, the pace of the car is still good. He's maintaining that gap to the cars behind him. So again, just really, really well controlled.
So there's one thing that Antonio said to me when I spoke to him a second ago. I asked him that based on Jake Dennis team radio, where he kind of made a comment that suggested that everyone was starting to push a bit too early. Antonio actually said they were worried that he'd done it too late.
Yeah.
So the complete opposite. Is that a testament to how much these races are now changing when it comes to the amount of energy available?
Yeah.
And it kind of being slightly more moving towards flat out racing towards the end.
Yeah, exactly. So what they're talking about here is if I zoom back out, so there's essentially a point where they're saving, and sort of around lap 10, you can see the traces start flattening off, and that's when everybody's starting to pick up a little bit of pace, but they're not sure whether they should push or they're back and forth. There's a little bit of cat and mouse in this phase, and we're just looking for that inflection point about when to go. So you sort of saw Jake Dennis say on the radio probably around lap 12, he's like, God, should we be going, should we not be going? And then Antonio, they clearly pushed it until lap 16 before they start pushing forward. So in this phase, it's very cat and mouse. Everybody kind of has an idea about how much energy they all have, and they're trying to figure out, right, with this energy that I've got left, can I go to the end of the race at a good enough pace? Or am I going to go too fast and then run out at the end?
Yeah.
So that's the tricky part. And there's a lot of driver feel in that area, I have to say. You've got the numbers, but the drivers have a really good idea of sort of the cars around them, what the balance and performance of the cars are like around them, how does that compare to them? It's are they better under braking? Are we a little bit better in corner speed? This is like a real feel thing, and this is the area where someone like a Roland Cassidy at the Costa, that experience, Buemi, Mortara, that experience really comes through.
It's amazing as well because when the field is separated by such a small amount of time, what was it, seven
seconds for the entire grid is madness.
Which is madness, right?
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily talking about lap time or gap to their competitors. They're talking about energy. They're talking about what strategy are they on? Is it time to push? Should we hold off? And I think it's really useful to understand that because it makes the races kind of spell out themselves to you, doesn't it?
Exactly, while not trying to crash into each other, by the way. When you're going 3-4 wide into some of those corners, it was hairy. I have to say, I was very surprised there was no safety car during this race. I mean, it was very, very wheel-to-wheel contact out there.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so just to round off, top three, very similar strategies, but just came down to that better execution from Da Costa.
Yeah, just, that 2 minute, 6 minute, or 4 minute, 4 minute. Like for me, that was really critical. And they all ended up on the podium and they did a good job. But maybe could have been a little bit more for the teams that went with that 2 minute, 6 minute strategy.
Okay, so looking at the other side of the coin, someone that didn't necessarily execute as well as they could, which is surprising because in a race like this, you do expect Nick Cassidy to be right there amongst it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that was what I said before the race as well. It was like he's starting P8. So again, it should have been a Nick Cassidy style race. You saw everybody. I would say the only thing is he was kind of stuck in that middle to back bit, which we say you're like in the jungle and it's just dangerous back here. And normally, again, Nick Cassidy doing Nick Cassidy things, he's able to sort of manage that quite well. And I think he did. The one thing I would say is I think they left their attack activations too late, and we can
Okay.
have a look at that now.
Let's have a look, because it's a very strange thing without an incident for Nick Cassidy to finish further down the order than he started.
Yeah.
That doesn't really happen that much.
Exactly. So if you look at where he was in the race, so I mean, there's a bunch of other cars in the middle here, but essentially he's kind of a little bit further back from the lead group, and there's just a lot of cars between him and the front. And you can see they left it very, very late. I mean, if you were listening to the driver radio during the race, they were having a quite heated back and forth discussion between him and his team. Ultimately, the strategy is led by the team, so Nick's just sort of executing what he's told. But for me, they definitely left it too late. I mean, they took the first attack mode in lap
Wow.
22 when
Yeah.
everybody else was already on their second attack. So they were sort of hoping that they could use that difference in performance at the end of the race, but ultimately they left Nick with way too much work to do, and the pace was super high at that part of the race.
That might have worked last season.
It might have worked at any other race as well, but just
Yeah.
for this race, for the pace at this circuit, just didn't work out.
And you mentioned there the team radio, the frustration. Those that listen to the team radio, you can go on the Formula E app, you can choose who to listen to for the entire race. Nick Cassidy was very vocal about not agreeing with the strategy.
Just not
He's
happy
a
bunny.
technical driver, isn't he? Like, he's very deep into the data.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it didn't work out for him today, but hopefully lessons learned, and we'll see the Nick Cassidy that we know and love come back. But
I'm sure.
in terms of drivers that we know and love doing what we see them do best, the DAC was very much back today with that win.
I don't think he was ever. He never
He
went
never went
anywhere.
away.
Never went away. He was always there. But for António, it's going into a new team, having to relearn all the software, learn how the team works. I mean, to have a result already in race 5, and let's be honest, he should have had a result. How many races already this year, other than for a bit of misfortune on track? So
Yeah.
no, I think Antonio's had a really strong performance start to the year. Maybe doesn't have all the points to show for it, but I think actually the performance is there, and he should be strong going from here on out.
Things looking very good for
Absolutely.
Jaguar, indeed, I would say, especially
Yeah.
with Mitch Evans' win before. That was good. It was a good weekend. Very different strategy at play with the pit boost and the attack mode and the different races, but I think we dived into it pretty well.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what's so exciting about FE. You can have a totally different race on Saturday to Sunday. The cars are the same, the drivers are the same, but things can be completely different. It's super exciting to watch and try to follow that during the race.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for watching. Let us
Thank
know
you.
what you thought of the race and this video. Of course, keep those questions coming in. We'll tackle them in the video for the next race. Make sure you subscribe to the Formula YouTube so you don't miss any of the great content that comes out on a daily basis pretty much. And we'll see you at the next race.